When I look at the climate nowadays, when I look at everything going on around me, I completely understand why most men don't seem to have a social network, why most men are single, why most men have really no interest in even seeking out those things. Now, I saw a video by another content creator, which this is no knock on him, I'm a fan of his channel, but he had mentioned in the video how he was talking about haters. And he was talking about haters online, which, of course, anyone who's a content creator is going to come across that. But he also talked about having haters IRL. And I thought to myself, why would you have those people in your life? You're talking about in real life. Why would you want to have those people around you? And again, I think part of maturity, part of really self-respect is setting boundaries, not being afraid to distance yourself from people and cut people off if they are an active detriment in your life. Because I see that all the time. I see people who will want to act cool with you, will call you bro, will dab you up, whatever it might be. But if you're not in the room, they're going to be gossiping about you. They're going to be spilling the beans in all your business. I've seen that way too many times. It's way too common. And with that kind of fake behavior, with how people have seemed to confuse this too, where if you're with a friend, they might gossip about someone else in the friend circle. You have to understand something. When you're not the one in the room, you're going to be the subject of that conversation. They're going to be gossiping about you. I mean, I've seen it time and time again, that cycle. So people seem to not understand, number one, what a real friendship even looks like anymore, because there's so much toxicity. But also being afraid to put the foot down and cut those people off. That's really the ultimate form of self-respect, is not surrounding yourself with toxic people, not being afraid to stand up for yourself and set boundaries. So I don't want to go too off topic with that one. But even when I see a lot of the surface level stuff with the social media, with networks and friend circle and stuff like that, you have people that are going to act cool with you in real life and are going to say, hey, let's connect on Instagram, whatever it might be. You follow them and they don't follow you back. Now, my thing is this: when that's happened to me in the past, if I follow someone and they don't follow me back, that's just instant unfollow. I'm unfollowing them right away, because that's not a friendship. That's you trying to get your ego stroked. That's you trying to act like you're a celebrity, act like you're above people, of being like, hey, look, I have more followers than people I'm following. I'm so important. Being in your own little world when, as I've touched on in a previous video, none of those people are real friends. None of those people are people who would have your back if something went wrong, if you had a flat tire. Probably not even people you talk to on a regular basis. And I think people seem to what people really need to understand, I know a lot of people do get this, but those people you see that are always posting their social life and always having to share with the world on their stories and their reels, the raves, the parties, the nightclubs with the strobe disco lights and all that kind of stuff, whether it's them being with females, pretty much 10 times out of 10, those are the people who are actually the most miserable deep down. When it's just them at home in a mirror, they're absolutely miserable. And this gets me to where really my point with this video is that a lot of men need to understand that there are times in your life where you are going to be alone. There are times in your life where you might not have friends around you, whether you're in that position right now, you have a falling out with a close friend, a breakup in a relationship, a disagreement with a family member. A lot of men need to really learn how to be comfortable when being alone. There were times in my life where I didn't have anyone around me, and the people that were around me were toxic. I wasn't very close to my family at the time, and which again, most men I've heard have this, but my whole life at that point was really just the gym. And you could put that in all different kinds of aspects. You could take that time to learn another language. You could take time to figure out what you want to do with yourself in terms of a job, whatever it might be. But there are times in life where you have to be that lone wolf. It's not inherently bad to be alone if you are being productive, if you're grinding, if you are actively improving yourself, if you're not just sitting there dwelling. But get this, though. Those people you see that are posting that kind of stuff, they're not capable of being alone. That's why they need the constant gratification and the likes and the attention from all the other people around them to try to act like there's something bigger than they are, to try to act like they're the center of the universe and center of attention. Whether, like I said, it's them not following you back on social media, whether it's them having to constantly post their life and have the attention of the world at their fingertips of the swipe. It's just false validation is what that is. Now, it's not hard to meet people, in my opinion. It's not hard to meet people. You get into a hobby, you work a job in the public, whatever it might be. You're going to meet people. You're going to interact with people. But what's become so hard for men is meeting decent, like-minded people who are out for your best interest. What's become so hard for men is coming across women who show genuine interest, who don't have a bunch of red flags, who are compatible, and who are worth taking seriously. That's just the truth. I know exactly why a lot of men are single with no social network. I know exactly why a lot of men feel out of place nowadays, because I've dealt with and even still deal with those feelings. But as I've gotten more mature, as I've gotten more experience in life, I see it for what it is. It's just masked insecurity. The behavior on social media, the behavior on the dating apps. I've seen women on dating apps who literally just download the app for attention and validation from other people. And they've admitted that straight out of their mouth. They've admitted that. Have no intention to go on dates with them, just want to get as many matches as possible to get their ego stroked. That's not someone at all with peace of mind. That's not someone you should want in your life. That's not someone that I would ever take seriously. So, and then when you see the behavior of a lot of people that call themselves friends, I've seen even men try to throw other men under the bus for female attention, all different kinds of crazy stuff. You can't be afraid to put the foot down and distance yourself from these people. I'd rather be alone than be in a toxic friendship or be in a toxic relationship, because it's going to disproportionately backfire. And then when it does backfire, you're going to be at a point where you don't want to have anything to do with anyone. You're not going to seek out those friendships or relationships because of being burned time and time and time again, because of letting your guard down. I've been blessed at the point in life where I am now, where I do have good people around me, and I've really tried my hardest to vet out people who are actively a detriment in my life. But it wasn't easy. And it took many years of getting burned. It took many years of putting up with negativity, with toxicity, with haters, with people who just want to knock you down a peg, whatever it might be. There's a very interesting quote. It was, life is simpler. I can't remember who it's from, but it was a quote I read a while ago. But it was, life is simpler when people know nothing about you. And from my experience, that's the truth. I've put up with toxic friends where which again, with a real friend, you should be able to be vulnerable. You should be able to put yourself in a place that doesn't always make you look like you're some top dog, right? And they'll use it against you if they get mad or something like that. They might even go gossip to someone else about it to make them feel better about themselves. That is just pathetic behavior. And I see that kind of pathetic behavior all over the place. I see people in relationships where women are going to nightclubs when they're supposed to be with their boyfriend, which, not to segue into a completely different topic, but If that happens, that's no respect for the guy. That's zero principle and dignity. To me, it's even a red flag if a girl's single and going to places like that. I sure as heck wouldn't go somewhere like that to find a serious relationship. I think if you're going to nightclubs or going to bars or even dating apps looking for something serious, that's clueless behavior. But I've seen it many times happening even during relationships. Breaking of trust, stuff like that. And I've seen situations where people are aware of these things and seem to just sweep it under the rug and act like it's not a big deal. Because that's how bad standards seem to set lower nowadays. Again, it's self-respect. Someone with self-respect would not surround themselves with people like that. Just like people with self-respect wouldn't put up with toxic friends, toxic relationships. And of course, there's two parts to this. You don't want to be overly critical because no one's perfect. You don't want to be overly critical and potentially cut off good people. But when you have the discernment or when you do the research, you'll know what to look out for. You'll know the kind of people that you should and shouldn't have in your life. And even another thing too is I see a lot of the shaming of men who they want to talk about not having a social network and stuff like that, shaming them for being close with their families, whether it's someone even living with their parents, even as early as their early to mid 20s, trying to act like there's shame in that. Now, I don't care if someone's even older than that living with their parents. I'm in a city where the cost of living is just ridiculous in the first place. So I understand why someone would want to stay with their family, and of course they should help their family. Maybe it's helping them with the rent or mortgage. Maybe if it's someone who's elderly, helping them with all different kinds of tasks and stuff like that. But I'll never shame someone for being close with their family, because that's always going to come number one. I mean, although I've heard some cases of people having toxic family members who were narcissists, I've heard of situations like that where that's of course you want to get away from that. But I don't understand why men are being shamed for, in this kind of landscape we're in, being close with their parents, even living with their parents, all for some kind of, again, superficial standard. Like when I was in my early 20s, I had people trying to shame me for living with my parents. And what I found so funny was these people were, and it's hilarious because of how hypocritical it is, but they were living in apartments, which again, no shame in living in apartments. I've rented an apartment before. I currently don't actually own a home or pay a mortgage or anything like that. I'm roommating with friends. But living in an apartment where they actually have family members sending them a check to pay for that apartment. So you're really not independent. Again, all that's just ego. It doesn't matter. Like I had people trying to shame me into it, and I was so young and naive at the time that I thought, I was a loser, and I need to move out to get a girlfriend. All this kind of, again, complete nonsense, superficial, just BS. And I come from a culture where both of my dad's side is Greek, and with my mom's side as well, they're very close with the relatives. They're constantly talking to them. They're always meeting with them, and none of the grandparents were in a nursing home. So no pun intended, but this kind of lifestyle to me was always kind of a foreign concept of seeing the kids just get out of the home at 18 and go across the country or across the state. That wasn't really a normal thing to me. And I've known many people who have actually completely destroyed their lives because of this kind of pressure, really fake pressure, probably from toxic people. It's if you have that ability to save your money, whether you're in school, whatever it might be, I would say take it. You shouldn't have to worry about, or don't put yourself in a position to have to worry about the extra stress of now having to pay rent and this kind of stuff. But anyway, guys, not to get too off topic, but I just see it as bad because it's hard enough to find a social network. It's hard enough to find good people. It's hard enough to find relationship material, whatever you want to call it. The last thing we need to do is now shaming people for being close with their families. I don't agree with that at all. I'll never agree with that. I'll never put some kind of superficial thing above my family. You only have one set of parents. They're not replaceable. I really don't understand why that's something that's been shamed or pushed, whatever it might be. That could be a video topic in itself. But when I see the landscape, when I see the misunderstandings of what a network, what a friendship even is, not a bunch of people on social media, not hundreds or thousands of social media followers where none of those people you even really know or interact with, none of those people would have your back if something went wrong. Not people who are gossiping about you behind your back, not people who are trying to throw you under the bus for female attention, not people who are trying to pull you down a peg or prevent you from living your life to the best of its ability. I know exactly why a lot of men are single with no social network. And I'll leave it with this, guys, because I think it's important, is that 10 times out of 10, I'd rather be alone than be in a toxic situation with toxic friends, with toxic relationships that are overall going to take a toll on me mentally and physically. Anyway, guys, appreciate you viewing the video. Hope you guys have a good one.